5 minutes of this video, I'm going to sort of narrate the pictures that are happening. We're removing a standard AC powered unit, air conditioner, but on AC power, Coleman Mach II. And it's a pretty wide unit, the new one, the Turbro. So be sure that you have your dimensions. It's 36 inches wide and I think 34 lengthwise. So once we determined that it would definitely fit on our roof, it's a nice low profile, but it is wide. We then did a test fit and then trying to take a look at where we could run the DC cables, because it needs a 4 gauge minimum. So we actually used the duct. This is not a ducted unit, it just blows straight down. We used the existing ducts, and Eddie drilled a hole. In the next picture you can see his finger poking through there. That's just a way to punch through and run the wires through a cabinet, which we'll show later. Here's Eddie's putting down the foam connector that's like a gasket, and we ran a bead of Dicor around it just in case, so that there's just no way you can get water in there. Here Eddie's putting on the sort of side tabs, because our roof has a barrel shape. These just help with some shock absorption so that the unit doesn't bounce around. So he's putting them out on the edge so that when it's laying flat, it gives it something to sort of stand on the edges. So put 4 of those on and then set them back down, and then the rest of it all is going to happen on the inside. So pretty tight fit. Got kind of lucky there. To be honest, I didn't realize how wide it was. So here Eddie's chipping out some of the existing HVAC box that was there for the return. We had to install this perpendicular to how Turbro wants it installed. The reason is that you need these metal bars to sandwich the unit to the top, whereas a normal AC unit goes all the way through the roof cavity and lets you sandwich onto your, essentially the inside. But these don't work that way. They don't have that kind of bracket. So this could be a sticking point for some folks with a normal RV roof. For us, we were able to use the bracing inside our outdoors RV. Has sort of like ceiling joists, so we had to do that perpendicular, and those metal bars are what hold the unit onto the roof. So you really need it to be pretty stout. So here is Eddie's doing sort of a starting the run of that. We got a 2-wire 4 gauge. It's a marine rated. We use this instead of the wire that Turbro provided because it was just skinnier and easier to run through our cabinet. The wire that they provided was actually quite nice. It's just that it was a little bit bigger with the loom that they sent. So here we're putting on those lugs to make the connection. Eddie's putting the shrink wrap on, or the shrink tube. So it's a nice strong crimp with a heat shrink on it. And here Eddie is zipping on the connection to the unit, and this part came with the Turbro, so it's really easy. And you wouldn't have to do the crimping if you use Turbro supplied cables, because they come preset with the lug. And here's Eddie passing that 2-wire from the cabinet into our power box, which is to his right in that last picture. This picture shows an optional DC wire that we didn't use. That shows the voltage if you need it. We didn't set that up. And then Eddie is filling in the gaps where we had our ducting and any holes that we created, so that the return air as well as the cold air can shoot down. I actually didn't take a picture at all of how we did the stack inside, but they provide several different thicknesses of like rigid foam, closed cell foam. so you can connect. All right, a little post-install video. We have our Turbro 1200 BTU unit, and it is running right now on normal mode and fan speed of 3 out of 5. So let's take a look. We are disconnected from the grid, and we have our battery monitor from Victron, and you can see it's running about 700 watts. We have 592 coming in from the roof. It's a little hazy, cloudy today, and it's running at about 700. Now we are parked, and there's really not much running. There's probably a couple circuits here and there, but the inverter is off. So it's pretty close to the actual draw. I'm sure there's some small phantom draws in here, but give you an idea what it's running at. So I'm gonna change the settings. The temperature in here, it's close to, this is a large space for this size unit. So just to clarify, this is a 30-foot travel trailer, and it is very hot and humid in southeastern Arizona today. This unit alone really can't handle this whole space in full sun. We have a bit of an unusual setup that in our bedroom, we have a 9,000 BTU mini split. Now, that's a little strange, but it works great because it really is right where we need it. We need to sleep. It provides heat and cooling. But this unit, we need to replace, or wanted to replace, our 15,000 BTU AC unit. So is this big enough for this room? I think so. It's not ducted. The ducts are now connected to nothing. And really I need to zip off these screws and pack some insulation in there, because they're really just holes for cold and heat to transmit. This is pushing out quite a bit of air, but you can hear it's very, very quiet on normal mode. Much quieter than a Coleman Mach II. All right, let's take a look at another mode. All right, so we're on normal mode. This is the mode button. I can hit that and go to eco. We'll just keep it on 3 bars of fan to keep it consistent. Well, let's take a look if we've dropped the draw at all. It might take it a while to change itself down. Yeah, it's dropping. You can actually hear the compressor start to slow down. And you can see that on eco mode, it's kind of capping out at about 500 or so watts. And in this particular setup, that is even with our solar right now. You can see the solar is fluctuating because it's cloudy here today. But this means that we're actually charging our batteries while running this unit. Now naturally, it's not putting out as much cool air. You can see it went from 84 to 86. It's very quiet, it has a nice even, consistent sound. If you were trying to sleep or take a nap, that amount of air is really not much. So there we are, we're cooling. This unit does not have a heat pump or heat strip. It's cooling only, but it also can be a fan. So let's take a look at the power again. Yeah, somewhere around 500 watts. That's not much to keep this cool. So if it was a very hot day, which it is, it's gonna be like 103 here today. Sitting in the dinette, that air is is cool, and it's fairly comfortable in here. Definitely making it more comfortable and livable. Let's try the next mode down, which is called Silent Sleep. Okay, sleep, kind of a strange name for the mode, but from what I read, it is its lowest setting. So let's take a look at what it's pulling. So I guess the idea would be is if you're going to, if you had it right over your head in the bedroom, for example, what would sleep mode do for you? Well, it brings the compressor sound down. It lowers the compressor speed, which therefore uses quite a bit less power. It's still cooling though, and it's drawing about 350 watts. That's pretty incredible. That's not a lot of power. By contrast, our 15,000 BTU Mach II with the soft start would draw somewhere around 1,600 watts, and maybe a little bit higher at startup, well, once it ramped up. So this is quite a bit less. Let's take a look at the fan only mode. That's fan only. The cooling symbol went away. We're just running the fan at speed 3. And let's take a look. About 100 watts. Obviously more than you have in like a standard max air fan like this one, which doesn't use hardly any power. In fact, there's one running in our bathroom now that I think about it, on low. Yeah, down to 80 watts. And temperature holding steady at 86, but it's just pulling outside air in. It feels cool, but it's probably because it's the outside condenser and the fins are cold. So let's go to turbo mode, which probably should be called Turbro mode, but just kidding. So turbo on fan 3, I assume that the cooling, there it goes. Cooling symbol came back on, and let's see what it ramps up to. It's gonna probably take a sec for that compressor to turn on, but that's the other nice thing, is it gives you a nice even draw. I assume it's gonna ramp up here. There it goes. So it doesn't give you that super hard hit. It's slowly speeding up the compressor, and we'll see how far it goes. All right, we're back in eco mode, and I'm showing this because I think this is probably the mode we would leave it in, sort of in maintenance mode, meaning like we want to keep the inside of the rig cool, but we're not actively needing to live in here. So we live in a very hot environment in the summertime in southeast Arizona. It's very humid because of the monsoon, and it's very hot. So we could just let this thing run during the day when the solar panels have sun on them, and it would be about dead even, or we could even charge our batteries a little bit. So again, that is, I've got it set at 75 degrees. It's getting there. It's in eco mode on fan 3. And we're running at about 500 watts. Not too shabby. So in theory, if you had a big enough solar array on top of your camper, or you had a set of fold-out panels, you could, on a sunny day in full sun, you could run this if you had about 600 watts of solar panels. Now, of course, you're going to need that to be full sun. So we have 1,000 watts, and because of the angle of the sun and some clouds today, we're only pulling in 600. But you can see that we're still gaining, you know, about 100 watts, and it's still cooling. So it's a great unit. I think it needs to be sized appropriately for your rig. It's too small to run this entire space at a comfortable level. I don't really know if it would ever get to 75 in here today, especially without a fan running. Naturally, you could run your max air fans on ceiling fan mode to keep the air mixing. It would probably help. So we could have this fan running. We have one in our bathroom, we have one in our bedroom as well. So by running those in ceiling fan mode, it won't pull any of the cool air out. It would help mix the air. It probably would help. But a smaller camper, for sure, could run with this guy. They also make a 9,000 BTU unit. So yeah, I'm sure it's even more efficient and lighter and uses less power.